Hello, welcome to Education 348. My name is Brad Walker and I'm delighted to work with you this semester. Delighted to learn with you this semester. A little bit about me as we begin. Before coming to UNCW, I taught 4th and 5th grade for 10 years. I worked as an elementary school principal as well. I've been here at UNCW for 29 years. I love teaching and I love learning and I love being around people who are learning, especially people who are preparing to be teachers. Let me just pause and say right here, as I commend your decision to be a teacher. As far as I'm concerned, teaching is probably the most rewarding, certainly one of the most rewarding careers available. It's hard work, but it's a great opportunity to put yourself in a position where you can impact the lives of students and their families for good. It's just a really neat experience, and I commend your decision to do that. I like to say that every child deserves a great teacher, and you'll be one of those great teachers for them. So let's work together and make this a meaningful and a productive semester. I met my wife Becky in Ed 200 a few years back. Actually, quite a few years back. We've been married for 45 years. We have 5 children and 13 grandchildren. My goal this semester is to make this a most exciting, productive learning experience for you and for me. I think we can do that if we agree to work together. So my invitation to you is to be open and honest with me, and I'll be the same with you. So for example, we're going to talk about the syllabus as we do this introduction for the course. And in that discussion, there'll be a list of what I think would be meaningful invitations, or some people like to call them assignments, that I think will help us get where we want to go as far as preparing ourselves to be the best and the most competent, confident language arts teachers going, so we can truly make a difference in the lives of our students. If you don't think those invitations or assignments are going to help you get there, I surely hope you'll talk to me and we'll change the assignments. I would hate for us to get at the end of the semester and someone say, gosh, that was a waste of time. I didn't learn one thing in 348. Let's not let that happen. It won't happen if we're open and honest with each other. There's my name, my office. That doesn't really mean much to an online course, but if you happen to be on campus and want to come by and say hi, I'm in Friday Annex, room 188. You see my email there and my work number, and please don't hesitate to contact me or call at any time, and I'll get back to you, and I want to help support you in all that you are trying to accomplish this semester. Basically, the purpose of this course, you can read the long version in the syllabus on our website in Blackboard. And by the way, I've chosen to do Blackboard this semester. I know some courses are moving over to Canvas, and the whole university will move into Canvas by the end of this year, this academic year, but I've chosen to let this stay as a Blackboard course this semester. Basically, this course is designed to help you become the most effective language arts teachers around. It's designed to help you come to know what literacy will do for you, and therefore what literacy will do for children, and to explore how do children learn literacy, and thus what should I be doing in my classroom to support that learning and support that growth. How can I assess authentically? How can I look at every child in my class, and know what their next best steps should be? How can I create an exciting, supportive learning environment that they're excited to be in? How can I truly empower my students as learners? How can I develop confidence and desire? So maybe there's a list of objectives in the syllabus, but I kind of like to boil it down to just a few. The objective is for you to come out of this course in December being able to say, I know what literacy does for us in our lives. I have confidence that I can empower all of my students to have and use the gift of literacy to live a qualitatively better life. We'll only have one textbook this semester. It's by Ralph Fletcher. I'm planning to use the second edition, What a Writer Needs. If you happen to have a copy of the first edition, you could get by with that. There's a few things that are different in the second edition, but I'm not sure it's worth paying extra money just to get a second edition if you already have the first edition. But either way, it's a great textbook. I think you'll enjoy reading it. We are going to, one of the invitations is to participate in a literature response group. Sometimes I call it literature response group, sometimes it's literature circle. This is where you would pick a book to read with a group of classmates. And so you'll decide how much of that book to read, when you'll stop and discuss. I'll have a discussion board set up in our Blackboard shell for you to get together and discuss what you've read. I just think this is a powerful way to motivate children. I think in many cases in schools we're moving away from these, but to me that's the best way to motivate a child and give us an opportunity to teach them in meaningful ways. I've selected 7 books, and the invitation is for you to, I've prepared a little introduction to these books on the web page and the content page. Look at that video and then pick which book you'd like to read with, if you have friends in class, you could pick the same book. If not, if there's a book you really want to read, put your name, go to the sign up wiki on our Blackboard shell, find the title, and then put your name underneath it, and we'll get started that way. These are all excellent books, I think. Here's the invitations. Number 1 is, Donald Graves said, schools need to slow down so kids can hurry up. I think sometimes we get trying to move so fast in our classes that we actually get in the way of learning. You've probably had a university class where it seemed like you couldn't catch your breath, and the instructor was trying to cover so much material that in some ways they didn't cover much at all. Or maybe learning didn't happen like it could have happened. So my plan is to slow down so we all can hurry up. So we won't have as many invitations as you might imagine. I want us to have the time to think and to reflect and to take what we're learning and see how it might be applied in the classroom. Or to have the time, if you see an interesting reference in one of the chapters, take some time to go explore that. To me, that's where true learning is going to happen. So this course is designed so that learning occurs through student engagement in learning strategies that illustrate or demonstrate a philosophy of language arts, teaching, curriculum, and learning. Invitation number 1. Participate consistently and aggressively as a learner. Reflect about yourself as a learner and a literate person. Truly identify what literacy does for you. Think about problems we face as teachers and possible solutions. Ask questions, find answers, experiment with different forms of representation. I'd like to have you participate. It won't necessarily, weekly in discussion boards or wikis based on our reading, and they'll be due as posted on the calendar. Basically, there'll be one due for each module. Invitation number 2. Participate consistently as a reader. Read the text, obviously, and read children's literature. We've already talked about participating in your selected literature circle or literature group. That will be due on November 28th. Number 3, participate consistently as a writer. Use writing as the tool it is and learn what writing will do for you. I'd invite you to keep a writing or a sketch journal or folder. Write on a consistent basis. I'd love it to be daily if possible. But in a busy semester that might not be possible. So do something in your journal or your sketch pad at least twice a week. Write to learn, answer, find questions, answer, make connections, think about, do some flash writes. Today I'm just going to spend 10 minutes trying this on for size. Write for personal reasons, topics of your choice, participate in the authoring cycle. We'll learn about that in the modules. Share excerpts from your writing or sketch journal during learning conferences with me. And I'd like to ask you to take one piece, a topic you've identified that you'd like to finish that, revise it, make it in its best form possible. And we say publish, but basically that means to share that with the class on the discussion board designated for that. And that is due on November 30th. So in the back of your mind, just think about you're going to be trying to write something twice a week or more if you can. And then by November 30th, you'll have something that's in final copy ready to share with the class. If you'd like to analyze your own handwriting and take steps for growth as needed, since we will be kind of a model for our students, I'll show you how to do that or some suggested ways to do that. The field experience with this class is to spend 10 hours in your assigned elementary school classroom. I don't want to give you a list of things you have to check off. So this paragraph, it's also in the syllabus, is just some ideas about what kinds of things you could do. And I would like you to teach at least 2 language arts / reading lessons. You'd need to coordinate your work with your partnership teacher, make sure he or she's okay with what you're doing. I'm just going to let you read through the rest of that paragraph about some things you might consider doing in addition to teaching and reading or teaching language arts lessons. So basically what I'm inviting us to do is to jump into the classroom and just decide those 10 hours devoted to language arts. Just utilize those to the best possible manner you can. Every classroom's different. Every classroom partnership teacher's different. Some are more willing to let us jump in more than others, but make the most of your experience. And I find if I have a checklist, then you're so focused to doing the checklist that you might miss other opportunities that would be very helpful to you. I'd like you to send a copy of your sign-in log to me by November 30th. That's probably going to be combined with other methods courses you're taking. That's fine with me. You don't have to separate it out or make a separate sign-in log. Number 5. I'd like to invite you to submit 1 language arts lesson plan to me for feedback. Let's try to do that by October 26th. It probably makes sense for it to be a lesson you have taught or are going to teach, but it doesn't have to be. I'll read through it and give you good feedback. I think I just want to mention that while you're at the school is a great opportunity to conduct writing and reading conferences with your students. You don't have to fill out a reflection sheet. Just do it and learn how to do it. Twice this semester we'll have a learning conference where we'll do it either on the phone or online, where I just like to kind of ask you some questions and have you have a chance to ask me questions. Our final exam, we'll talk more about that as the semester goes along, will be due on December 9th. Let's talk a little bit about grading. This course is not focused on grading, it's focused on learning. I think sometimes if we're not careful, grades will get in the way of learning. I've been in classes in college where I felt like if the instructor knew how much I'd learned and changed, she would give me an A, but she didn't. And I've been in classes where I thought, well, I really didn't do a whole lot, but I did enough to get an A. I'm not sure I really learned as much as I should have. Let's not let that be the case here. Let's not let grades or minimum requirements become our focus. Let's focus on learning all we can about how to best support literacy growth. So in order to help support that, I'd like to say that each one of you will get an A in this class. All I ask you to do is be serious about your learning. Finish all the assignments or invitations that we ask. Do the best you can, and you'll get an A in the class. If there's a particular assignment that perhaps maybe I think you're skating on, I'll ask you to reconsider redoing that, or we'll talk about it anyway. But that typically doesn't happen. I'd like this to be a relaxed environment where you can truly just learn. Um, so y'all have an A. You probably don't believe me right now, and about midterm, some of you might ask, what grade am I getting? And I'll say, A. And maybe towards the end you'll say, hey, what grade have I got? And I'll say, A. I won't grade your invitations, but I certainly will give you feedback on them. And I think this is a better way to support learning. And I'd like you to experience this, what it's like to truly be a learner in a college classroom where grades do not matter. Let's see what happens. If there's any place in our educational environment where we could do this with students, it would be at the elementary school. I wish every elementary school would move in this direction. We owe it to parents to let them know how their children are doing, and we need to know how they're doing. But I'm not sure giving a grade and reporting a grade is the most effective way to do that. In the syllabus, you'll see a class schedule at the end of the syllabus. I've tried to show the significant dates through the semester, when modules will be open, what we're going to cover in those, what the reading assignment is for that module, and then whether it's a discussion board or a wiki and when it's due. So that should help you organize your semester. Let me just share a couple examples of my writing sketch pad. This was done once during class, actually. We were all writing, and I've been trying to figure out how to be a better artist. And so in addition to taking notes about what happened in the class and some of my thoughts about that, I was looking out the window and trying to figure out how I could make the building next to our building look like it looks. And I realized that perspective is hard, especially when you do corners, or like in this case, the roof of the building changed. I love to do sketching. I'm no good at it, but I think I ask the same questions in sketching as I ask in writing. How do I make it look like it looks, or how can I make it look like I want it to look? In writing, I think I ask the similar question. How can I make it say what I want it to say? Or how can I create the feeling I want to create? Another example out of my sketch journal or writing journal, Sketchpad, I'd gone across campus. It was in the middle of the winter. It was cold, maybe the coldest day on record that year. And I was going over to a meeting across campus, and I rounded a building by Westside Hall, and there on that cold, cold day, the Okame cherry tree was in full bloom. Flowering quince on the ground right by it were in full bloom, and I thought, I've wandered through a corner of spring. So after I was done across campus, I came back to my office and thought, I wonder if I can record that experience. And so I started that. You can see I've done some editing. I wrote on other pieces of paper, and finally I got to the point where I wanted to make something public, and here's what it ended up being. You could pause this and read it if you want. I won't take time to do that. It was a clear, crisp winter day. A stiff breeze was irritating everything in its path as it rushed to its destination from the north. The sun was shining as brilliantly as it ever does, but was having little effect, losing ground in its effort to warm things up. I just talk about what I saw and how I felt. And then my last paragraph, I know where I'll be looking as winter draws to an end next year. I'll be searching for a corner of spring. Care to join me? Well, that's just a quick little example of some of the writing I've done in my weekly writing. Of course, I've done professional writing as well, since it's part of my job. This might be an example for you. It should be something personal, something that you care about. I'll bet I've revised that piece that you're seeing right there on the screen right now 15 times. Try to get something a little bit better. I'm sure if I wanted to, I could revise it some more, but I just wanted to share this, and that might be something that you would publish and share with us at the end of the semester. It's your call how long it is. It's your call what the topic is. Some students like to write poetry. Some like to do something professionally. Some tell a funny family story. there's just all sorts of things. There's no end, there's no limit on what you want to write about. And then I wanted to share something else that happened to me. I discovered in the back of our home, in a pine tree, red-bellied woodpecker was building a nest. So I spent some time that spring and summer watching this happen. And while I was doing that, I started to research about red-bellied woodpeckers. And so in my journal, or my writing folder here, I've drawn some pictures and started to list some of the things I had learned. How to tell the difference between a male and a female. How do they stand on the underside of the limb like this this bird was doing. I learned about what they eat, how many eggs they lay. I learned that the male tongues are wider tipped. They allow them to forage at different places. What they eat, how long it takes the eggs to hatch, how do they communicate. I learned about what it means to be zygodactylous. In other words, they have 2 toes on the front, 2 toes on the back. You can see some of my drawings of that. Comes from the word, at least related to pterodactyls. Talked about different things, how they communicate. And then there's a there's a book that's entitled Have You Seen Birds? It's fascinating. It's got a real specific pattern to it. And I thought, let me try to take everything I've learned about red-bellied woodpeckers and see if I can make it into a book like patterned after the book of Have You Seen Birds? And so you can see this is my attempt to do that. I wrote some notes in a meeting and brought it back, put it in my notebook. So notebooks are messy. And then this is my final version. Have You Seen Red-Bellied Woodpeckers? Based on Have You Seen Birds by Joanne Oppenheim. And there's a red-bellied woodpecker. Not the one in my backyard. I wish I'd been able to get that close. Barred backs, red-colored caps, colors on the breastbirds, pecking beats, barb-tongued, sticky spit, twilling, undulating flight birds, knocking on the wood birds, hopping and bracing, climbing birds, hitching up and down the tree, upside down, right side up, on top and underneath the limbs. Wedging nuts in crevices birds, cracking and storing devices birds, differentiated tongues for effective foraging birds, eating insects, spiders, and an assortment of arthropods, finishing off with nuts, seeds, and even raiding fruit. Chipping out the nest birds, keeping watch and trading shifts birds, never-ending feeding birds, never resting, always working, taking turns to meet their needs. Males scouting the just right location birds, starting construction of the nest birds, rat-tat-tatting out the invitation. Females checking out the suitor birds, inspecting the nest birds, tapping, twilling, and accepting the offer, perfecting construction of their nest. Zygodactylous, monogamous, with altricious chicks, playing and having fun in the forest birds. So much to see, so much to learn. Interesting, beautiful birds. Have you seen red-bellied woodpeckers? It was a fun learning and growing experience for me. The males actually start the nest and then the females come to inspect. If they like what they see, then they'll finish the nest and have the eggs in that. If not, then they go find another suitor. Kind of interesting. So, with those examples and with that short introduction to the semester, let me close with an invitation. Let's have a wonderful, exciting, productive semester. I look forward to learning and working with you. Thank you.